Good morning, and thank you for joining me for home worship. Coming from my home to yours, as more and more of us are staying home these days. We still are having worship in person at 10 o'clock on Sundays, and this message is to coordinate with the Sunday message for August 29th. The title of this is Being Human, and it's in our new sermon series based on the Brian McLaren book, We Make the Road by Walking, which will be a year of discipleship that we are investing in our congregation. I hope you will avail yourself of one of the classes on Tuesdays, one in the morning over Zoom and the other in the evening. We are trying to do it in person. It may not continue that way, but there are two different classes you could join, and you can get the book by contacting me or ordering it on Amazon. And we are discussing the different chapters and the scriptures that go along with them about being more alive in the story of creation. This morning, the passage comes from Mark. It's the Gospel of Mark, chapter 3, verses 1 through 6. I'll be reading from the Common English Bible. Jesus returned to the synagogue. A man with a withered hand was there, wanting to bring charges against Jesus. They were watching Jesus closely to see if he would heal on the Sabbath. So he said to the man with the withered hand, "Step up where people can see you." Then he said to them, "Is it legal on the Sabbath to do good or to do evil, to save life or to kill?" But they said nothing. Looking around at them with anger, deeply grieved at their unyielding hearts, he said to the man, "Stretch out your hand." So he did, and his hand was made healthy. And at that, the Pharisees got together with the supporters of Herod to plan how to destroy Jesus. Let me paint the picture for you. Here is Jesus. Here is a synagogue. Over here is a man with a withered hand, a temptation for Jesus, the healer. Over here are people looking to see if Jesus will heal on the Sabbath and thus break a commandment. Jesus instructs the man with the withered hand to stand in the center where everyone can see him. And then Jesus, with obvious insight into what is going on, asks the people who are looking on to see if he'll mess up a question. He asks them this: is it legal on the Sabbath to do good or evil, to save life or to kill? Jesus' reaction, based on Mark's account, he's not asking a rhetorical question. When he posed this question to them and they did not respond, it says it drove him to anger. I imagine that Jesus was just giving them a chance to see things in a different light. After all, wasn't that what he was attempting to do? Not just here and now in this synagogue, in this story, but always and everywhere, attempting to help them see things in a different light. He was giving them a chance, and they didn't take advantage of it. The same way God gave us a chance in the garden. He said, "You can eat from every tree, but I would advise you not to eat from this one. This one will corrupt you in ugly ways." And God says to the children in the garden, "I'd hate to see you suffer, but alas, my love for you knows no end, and I have to give you a choice. A choice that comes with a warning, but a warning of grace, not a warning of shame on you. It's more of, don't do this, you won't like the results." Made in God's image, we are special because of God, not because of us. It only takes one chapter in the beginning of our story for us to lose sight of the awe and wonder of God. And we learn in the second creation story, that's the one with the garden and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We learn about our growing desire as humans to be God, to compete with God. It's funny that when we make mistakes, we say, oh, we're only human, meaning when we err, we are not like God. But even when we act correctly, when we accomplish incredible feats, when we're celebrated by our peers for our excellence, are we not still only human? Or do we imagine ourselves more? Why don't we stop all this "I'm only human" when we fail, or our flaws are exposed, or we just get weary, and admit that sometimes we act less than human? And instead of the expectation that we strive to be godlike, let us find it within ourselves to have the strength and conviction to be the best humans we can be, and let God be God. The people in this story who were looking at Jesus and did not respond to his question failed to see that he was trying to make a point. He wanted to get them to see things in a different light, to see things his way, the way that he was looking at the situation. But they were just waiting on enough evidence to build a case against him. They would not be open to other possibilities. They would not be swayed from their mission. Their determined goals were forefront in their mind. In a way, their commitment to their mission is admirable. Most of us would say, well done. In another way, it's startling. Their focus on finding something that they could convict Jesus with. But we do this too. Please don't ask us for our compassion. We are on a mission of self-righteous indignation against this actor who would disturb our status quo. It's a problem for our society here and now because we've been disturbed. Our status quo has been turned up on its head. The post-pandemic, social media-driven, alternative facts society that we live in right now has turned everything on its head. We're convinced that we're correct and the other side is wrong, and we will push it until we can't push it anymore. But we need to let Jesus in. When he asks the moral question from a place of compassion and sanity, we need to calm down and we need to acquiesce. Maybe in our myopic attempts at our mission, we lose sight of the important stuff along the way, like a man with a withered hand. The argument can be made that this is not a matter of life and death, of course, so breaking the commandment may be unnecessary for Jesus, maybe. But these people aren't concerned that Jesus is not being an observant Jew. They are trying to bring a case against him because essentially Jesus has disrupted the status quo. He's making all things new. And human beings, especially those of us who live in relative comfort at the top of the food chain, would not have our status quo disrupted. We like to keep things as they are. Maybe that's why we have had such a terrible time attempting to accept the global pandemic's changes. It's a crazy world we live in. I can't even look at it anymore. There's too much out there. Too much to weigh heavy on your heart, too much to think about, too much pain and suffering. I try to see things from all sides, but still when people I know are dying from COVID-19 Delta variant, specifically people I know, it's hard for me personally to be gracious and open-minded about why a person would not avail themselves of a vaccine or take preventative precautions like wearing a mask or staying socially distant. I can't understand it. Is it a daredevil mentality? Is it like I can take risks with my health and my physical body because I'll never die? The sort of teenager thought. The reason why he takes the dead man's curve at full speed, and there's a reason why they call it dead man's curve. I guess maybe I'm too old. Too many people would miss me if I died of COVID-19 right now. So I just have a tough time understanding why anybody wouldn't participate in all the precautions that they could. I mean, it's the reason I wear my glasses when I drive at night, so that I don't hurt somebody else with my car or get hurt myself. It's just a precaution. I don't like wearing glasses, but I do it. And yeah, it's a new thing. This whole pandemic, it's a new thing to get used to, but apparently it's not going away anytime soon. So what do we do? And you can tell my heart is heavy with this. Not because of news, media, or hype, or even social media hype. My heart's heavy because of death. Of folk I know. Unnecessary death. People gone too soon, leaving grief and substantial medical bills for their loved ones. I can't look. Mark's gospel tells us that Jesus got angry when the people didn't respond to his question. And he's only gotten angry one other place in the Gospels, and that's that famous story during Holy Week of him turning over the tables in the temple and driving out the money changers. The timing's a little off in John's Gospel, so people argue whether it happened twice. It might have done twice, but it's the same scene, essentially. It gives me permission to be a little angry myself. First and mostly, I'm angry at this thing we have to live with that's indiscriminately killing us. Secondly, I'm angry at whoever it is that told my friends and loved ones and family members not to trust the vaccine. A vaccine that could have saved them had they availed themselves of it early enough. And lastly, I'm angry at my helplessness, my own helplessness in the face of all of it. And I'm sure you feel that way too. I've never served in the military, but I have a lot of respect for those who put themselves on the line to keep the rest of us safe. Now, that's a lot of people, not just service persons. It's our first responders and all folks like that. But the military, the U.S. military, captures my imagination by the way it organizes and learns and moves forward to achieve its goals. Now, what if we as a society here in the land we call America attempt to fight COVID-19, this pandemic we're dealing with, like the U.S. military branches would going to war? So imagine the situation of a soldier dropped into a foreign land to fight the enemy. What's her motivation? Keep her fellow soldiers safe, secure freedom for the innocent, and protect our nation. Okay? What tools does she need? What procedures does she learn? And then, when changes come, what things does she have to relearn? Because for our soldiers, it's learn and adapt or die. There's an insistent imperative to respond to the changing surroundings. And her support systems and training have considered all that. She's ready to adapt and learn and use the tools around her or to die. We have to adapt to this new reality and look around and learn from the experts what tools we might need to continue if we ever want to get out from under the threat of this pandemic. And I want out. I don't know about you. And anger, my anger and yours, isn't going to help us. You see, Jesus, he didn't stay angry. He got angry, but he didn't stay angry. He reached out and he healed the man's withered hand. So we need to get out of our anger. I need to get out of my anger. And that's what we need to do. Put the anger aside and learn and adapt and help each other out the best we can. Because remember that this sermon was being human. We start out helping each other by being human, by understanding what it means to choose every day the tree of life instead of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. To try to be the best humans we can be, the way God created us to be. To give a look around at our circumstances, to learn as much as we can, and to respond in kind in the benefit of ourselves and of our fellow human beings. And then let God be God. Because the weight of this and the anger we feel, we cannot begin. Our psyches, our souls are not meant to hold all this. We're not built that way. We're built to hold the people around us. And brothers and sisters, the people around me have died. And as we carry this forward, let's move forward. Let's be a people of hope, understanding that there is a tree of life. There's not just a tree of the knowledge of good and evil. It's the one that always gets painted into the pictures and talked about, but there's another tree there that God put in the garden for us. It's the tree of life. You got to look around to find it, but that's the one we can choose every day. And we can go forward and let God be God.